We've got Miami football talk ready to go here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. It's 8:30 Eastern time, and we've got Cam Underwood right front and center from State of the U. You got to join him and the rest of the staff for Miami sports coverage. Football, of course, at the top of the rung. Cam, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. Just tweeting out the link right there. Boom, boom. You know, social engagement kind of stuff. Well, yeah, just enjoying a nice Thursday evening, so I can't complain.
Yeah, as soon as you start talking, I'm going to do the same. When I schedule these back to back to back to back to back to back, that's a little difficult to do. August is going to bring us some early enrollees, meaning that we had the early enrollees, I should say, coming in during the spring. We got to look at them specifically during the spring game. And now we've got more talented freshmen ready to roll here in a few days, first for classes and to get all the checks and dot the I's and cross the T's and so forth. But we're going to get our look here in August. So who are you excited to see?
I'm excited to see everybody, honestly. You know, Miami needs the talent that we got in recruiting to hit the field. Even if it's the practice field just for additional depth, and some of these guys are going to play big roles this year. So I'm very interested to see everybody that's coming in. So, yeah, we had a bunch of early enrollees already this year who've hit the field. Guys like Brian Hightower, who had 5 catches for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in the spring game. Greg Russo, who was pretty much unblockable at defensive end. You know, 6'7" with the almost 7-foot wingspan, you know, those kind of guys. Lorenzo Lingard, 5-star running back, Jaron Williams, quarterback, all that. So we had 10 guys on campus already from January. Lorenzo Lingard, Jaron Williams, DeLon Scaife, Brian Hightower, Gervin Hall, Gilbert Frierson, DJ Ivey, DeCurtis Wiggins, John Campbell, and Gregory Russo. Those are those 10. But now coming up soon is going to be when the other guys who did not enroll early graduate from high school and make their way to matriculate to campus in Coral Gables. The housing opens for summer A session on May the 20th. That's when most of these guys are going to come in. I haven't reached out to guys or seen reports of who exactly is going to be there on May the 20th, but the majority of the guys, the 13 who are not already on campus, should be there about then. There might be a couple of grad transfers, Tito Odenegbu from Illinois and Benzo Bulware from Tennessee. I'm not sure if they're going to be there for summer A or summer B session, but those guys could be added to this group as well. But some of the guys who are coming in starting in May, 10 days from now, so just a week and a half. Brevin Jordan, the nation's #1 tight end from Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas, Nevada. He's going to come in, and he should start right away from day one. I mean, the talent at tight end was just lacking. It just wasn't there in the spring. So with him, and then Will Mallory from Jacksonville Providence High School, a Michigan legacy who decided to take his talents to Coral Gables. And he was he won a medal at the state track and field championships for the state of Florida this last week. And he was faster than some other 2018 and 19 recruits, guys like Khair Elam, that's he's the cousin of a kid, Matt Elam, there it is, who went to Florida, and he's a defensive back in 2019. Everybody's like, oh, Khair Elam's really fast. Well, Will Mallory at 6'6" and like 220 pounds or more than that is faster than him. So, and that was not subjective. That's not, rose-colored or orange and green glasses. They ran on the track next to each other, and Will Mallory was faster. So that's pretty decent. Those guys are coming in. Nesta Silvera, the nation's #2 defensive tackle from American Heritage here in Plantation, Florida. He's going to come in and he has to play. We just need bodies up front. I know that the depth at defensive tackle was proven to be a little bit better than we thought in the spring, but getting a guy of Silvera's stature and ability is really going to be great. Mark Pope from Miami Southridge is, and for my money, he was one of the best and most explosive wide receivers in the last year's recruiting class. Miami Southridge didn't have a quarterback for 2 years, and when plays needed to be made, he still made plays. And I know that his statistics didn't match up with some other elite wide receiver recruits, but when he went to the U.S. Army All-American game, Mark Pope was uncoverable, and that's with 5-star defensive backs lined up on the other side, and he just, he flambéed them all the time. Other guys who are coming in, Al Blaze Jr., obviously Kane's legacy. Cameron Davis, a great name, by the way, from Miami Carroll City. Cleveland Reed, who's a champion weightlifter, power lifter in the state of Florida from Fort Meade, 6'3", 330-pound offensive lineman. Marquez Ezard from Stockbridge, Georgia. He's a wide receiver in the Anquan Bolden mold, i.e. 6'1", 220 pounds of rock solid muscle. Patrick Joyner from South Dade. Jordan Miller from Jacksonville, Sandalwood, excuse me for stuttering. I don't know why that happened, but it did. He's 6'4", 330 pounds, a defensive tackle. I know that Jordan Miller, was from Palatka, which is in the middle of nowhere. So that's why nobody knew about him until he transferred to Sandalwood for his senior year. Go back and look at the tape. I think that Jordan Miller is better than his recruiting ranking showed, and that's because he never went to a team camp. He never went to the individual, like the opening rivals camps. He didn't do any of those things, and he played for this really small podunk town. Go watch that film. You're going to see a 4-star kind of kid. I'm not saying he's going to come in and be Ed Oliver, everybody's All-American from day one, but he can play. Nigel Bethel is one of the fastest kids in America, Miami Northwestern. I know he was a state champion recently with Miami Northwestern's legendary track program. Realist George, the fullback from Pace Academy in Georgia, and then Bubba Baxa, the kicker. My friend Dunlap loves him because his name is Bubba Baxa from Pasadena Memorial, Texas.
How is that spelled?
Say again.
Can you spell that?
Yeah, Bubba, B-U-B-B-A, and then Baxa, B-A-X-A. So you throw up the X every time he hits a field goal. But yeah, he's a multi-talented kid. He was like first team all-region, all-district as a third baseman on Pasadena's baseball team in years past. So he's not just like, you're kind of really skinny kicker who just kind of trots out there and goes back. Like, if he had to, he could take a hit. He's stock. I mean, he's built like a third baseman. So, things like Scott Rowland, 6'2", 215, 20 pounds. Like, he has some size to him. And he was the nation's #2 kicker. And obviously losing Michael Badgley, who was Miami Hurricanes' career all-time leading scorer, we need a kicker to come in and replace him. We have a couple walk-on guys, even a couple priority walk-on guys. But, we have one scholarship kicker coming in, and that's Bubba Baxa. So hopefully, all of those guys, I would like to see them come in 10 days on, May 20th. If they don't make it in, and I'm going on my tabs here on my computer, if they don't make it in by May 20th, the last day to register for a course is May the 23rd for the first summer session. So you get basically those 4 days, 20th up to the 23rd. If you are not there by the 23rd, then obviously you have to wait till the July 1st for the July 2nd start of class. So you get 2 days of class for summer B session before the 4th of July, obviously. So yeah, if they're not in now, then they got to wait till July. So hopefully most of those guys make their way downtown walking fast and all those kind of things.
I dare you to find a Miami football podcast where Scott Rowland is referenced as well. So if you're anything like me, Cam, and I'm going to guess you are as a baseball fan, I still love the sport. I check in as much as I can and keep up with it, but it's kind of difficult to remember all these players. But man, you referenced 20 years ago, and I remember everybody. And Scott Rowland, man, right in his prime about, 10 to 15 to 20 years ago.
Yeah, man. I mean, okay, so I looked up. Bubba Baxa is not as big as Rowland. He's like 6 foot, 200 pounds, but still not, your twig kind of guy. But, yeah, I love baseball. I really love baseball. I'm, play the video games, and I try to watch as much as possible. And, yeah, it was my first love. It was my favorite sport. I wasn't really good at it. I was better at basketball personally. But, yeah, baseball has a special spot in my heart. And then, I would be remiss as a former Atlanta Braves fan to not mention Chipper Jones at third base also because, hey, Chipper is Chipper. I can't just say Scott Rowland. I know my buddy Mike Fay, shout out to him if he's watching this. He's going to be, oh, my God, he talked about the Phillies and not about the Braves and Chipper. So that's shout out to Mike.
All right. Or Bob Horner if you're really old. But, yeah, Chipper for most of my baseball watching days. But it was Bob Horner when I was a wee little tyke just starting to watch on the Superstation. All right, Cam Underwood, State of the U, talking Miami football, not Major League Baseball, Miami football tonight. And how about that recruiting ranking? It's number 3 in the ACC, but it's number 7 nationally. Doesn't mean anything. Forget that right now. Let's look at the talent coming to Coral Gables. And it's Avery Huff and it's Michael Tarquin, the most recent coming to town. Do you like what you see?
I love what I see in both of those guys. And they play positions of need, and they're big, and that matters. Yeah, so Michael Tarquin, 6'5", 290 pounds, offensive tackle. and he's pretty much a pure offensive tackle, which we don't have many of those on the roster, which we've talked about previously with trying to reshape this offensive line and things like that. So he's from Bellevue, Florida, and it was kind of a circuitous recruiting route for him. Miami was at the top of his recruitment for a while, like leading into last season, and then fell off, and Florida kind of took over, and some other teams rose up while Miami fell back. Excuse me. And then, yeah, I guess, Miami kind of went back to the lab and reevaluated his tape and decided that they really liked him. And they really pressed hard for a commitment, and they got that, which is great from a 4-star tackle he's a mean run blocker. He's a good pass blocker, but obviously, you can develop more in that area, especially from the high school to the college level when guys are uniformly bigger and faster and stronger than you face in high school. So getting a guy of Tarquin's talent is really, really impressive and essential for Miami, because you have to build from the lines out. And especially with the dearth of talent that seems to be on the offensive line, especially getting a player of his caliber is massive. And that's a great job by Stacey Searles to do that. Also, replacing Brandon Cunningham, the kid who decommitted and flipped to Mississippi State, who's from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and wanted to be closer to home. So replacing a tackle with another tackle, and especially one from the state and one of Tarquin's caliber, all of those things are positive in my estimation. For Avery Huff, yeah, he's just mean. He's 6'4", about 200, 205 pounds at linebacker. Obviously have the frame to grow a little bit as he, continues to develop, and he's transferred from MacArthur High School to the powerhouse known as St. Thomas Aquinas. So, getting their nutrition and weightlifting program and things like that. Obviously, their coaching refined some of the skills. But if you watch those huddle highlights, he's a heat-seeking missile, man. I mean, he's just all over the place. And it's great to have a player of his caliber also coming in. Tarquin and Huff are the 3rd and 4th highest rated players currently in Miami's recruiting class, and they're the 3rd and 4th currently rated 4-star players in Miami's recruiting class. So that's adding talent across the board, no matter which way you look at it. You're adding size on offense and defense. Oh, height and length at least. Tarquin adds the size. Huff can add the bulk as he goes. But when you're 17 years old and already 6'4", 205, you're probably going to get bigger. I'm not saying that he's going to be an Alabama-sized outside linebacker at 6'5", 257 pounds, but he could still easily get up to 220, 225, 230 and keep his athleticism. So, yeah, adding both of those guys is really great. Miami is going to need to add 4 or 5 linebackers in this class. Currently, I believe there are 4 of them committed, and Miami has 2 of 3 from St. Thomas Aquinas and are still fighting for Jamar Brown, the 3rd starting linebacker at St. Thomas Aquinas, to go along with Anthony Solomon and Avery Huff, 2 other 4-stars at Aquinas. So if you're thinking about dealing with that intermediate area on defense, they have 3 4-star players at linebacker in the same class at Aquinas. It's a little different down here, you know what I mean? So, yeah, but adding Solomon or Huff to go with Solomon and Samuel Brooks, who was Miami-Dade's sack leader last year, even after missing the last 3 games after tearing up his knee with the ACL and MCL, adding to Josiah Pierre from Central Florida, who goes to the Mountain Dora Home and Bible Academy. That's the kind of recruiting that we should see. That's the kind of talent addition to the roster that Miami needs to see. So adding those guys is great. There have been a couple interesting new offers going out I'm going to write about on the website soon. There's been, obviously we're just continuing to push forward. I think that there's probably going to be some attrition still to the group that's currently committed. But that happens. It's recruiting. It's okay. It's not usually linear. So, you're going to have to optimize the group, as it were. But when you're adding players of the caliber of Michael Tarquin and Avery Huff, I think that you're doing things in the right way. And yeah, it's 3rd. This class is ranked 3rd in the ACC and 7th overall right now. And, if we stay in that range or even elevate, depending on the kind of big bodies again on the offensive and defensive lines that we get, I think that Miami is going to be in a good spot. But in addition to elite skill position recruiting, I really want to see the line recruiting on offensive defense really improve this year, and hopefully we'll see that come to pass.
Huff is the 20th rated outside linebacker, according to 247 Sports. He's the 50th rated player in the state of Florida, just committed on May 7th for Tarquin. That's offensive tackle number 27, according to 247, number 44 overall prospect in Florida. And he committed just a few weeks back. Cam, as I look at the live chat, I'm getting 3 themes, and I don't necessarily think they're worth pursuing. Either we're going to kill LSU, or we got some LSU people jumping on saying we're going to kill Miami, or we've got, why is Malik Rozier so horrible? And we're hearing that obviously every week. So these are the 3 basic themes that everybody's talking about on the live chat. What I'm going to ask you about is this LSU game. It's great for football fans. If you have no rooting interest, especially just to see athletes out there. And if you're going to pick 2 programs, you're pretty much in that basket with not too many other programs that you would want to select just pure athletes to watch challenge each other on a football field than LSU and Miami. And that's what we're going to get in week 1. And in recent years, the schedule has had to tune up. It's been the warm up for a few weeks to get into it. But this, man, right out of the gate, hit right in the mouth, looking at both teams. Do you like this?
I love it. I want to see Miami play anybody, anywhere, anytime. We're not scared of anybody. Alabama's on the schedule in the future. Florida finally decided to stop being scared of us and put Miami back on the schedule for 2019. You got Michigan State in a couple of years' time. You have Texas A&M in a couple of years' time. Obviously, every 6 and 7 years, you play Notre Dame, who we played the previous 2 years. I'm all for marquee out of conference games. And I think that it's great. I think that, Miami is a national brand. We are one of not the long tenured blue bloods like the University of Michigan or Notre Dame, who's been playing since 1883, but, one of the blue bloods. And when you think of college football, these are the Miami Hurricanes. And yeah, it's been over the course of 35, 40 years as opposed to 120 years or whatever it might be. But this is a program that should be in these kind of games. You should have the kickoff classic on Sunday of Labor Day weekend, Sunday night. So we're the only game that's going on that night because we're not playing on Saturday like everybody else, because the University of Miami is not like everybody else. We should have that big stage. And I love the fact that Blake James and the athletic department have made the move back towards that kind of a thing. So having this, it's a de facto home game for LSU because it's in Arlington, Texas. And, obviously it's way closer to Baton Rouge or New Orleans or wherever you're, Houston, where a lot of LSU alums and people are from. I know that as I'm going to the game, so I can speak about this concretely. I know that we Miami fans are going to be outnumbered greatly there. But I'm great with that. I'm fine. Like, let's be jerks. You don't have to like me. Like, you can be loud. I know that they're going to want the band to play Neck. If you've never heard it, look up LSU Tiger Band playing the song Neck. It's a legendary thing. Look up the story behind it. That's all I'm going to say. And I know that they're going to want to do that kind of thing, and it's fine. But this is a game that Miami should play in. This is a game that Miami should win because I think that Miami is a better team right now than LSU. LSU might be in the market for a transfer quarterback from Ohio State, Joe Burrows, who's just leaving there, who was a highly rated guy 3-4 years ago. He'd be a grad transfer with 2 years left because they are looking for a quarterback because LSU has been like where quarterbacks go to die for years. I mean, it's just been no talent there has been very bad. So they're obviously looking at Burrows to come in and play. If he chooses not to go to LSU, then he has some other options, and they have other options as well. Even with that being said, I like the way that Miami lines up against them. I like the potential that we have. I like our skill guys against theirs on offense. I like our defense because LSU's offense has not been really good. So unless they change the native state of who they are and what they've done, I foresee a Miami victory. I know that this is a closely contested game, or it will probably be closely contested. I know that going into the summer months, Miami is favored by 1 point. In this game, it was Miami by 1 point, and then it was LSU by a point, and now it's back to Miami by a point or a point and a half, which is like, 24-23. That's a close ball game in case you don't know how to do math. So I think that it's going to be a great game, and I think that it's going to be a showcase moment for the University of Miami. And these are the kind of things that we should have. Even if you go back and look to 2000, where Miami lost that second game of the year at Washington when we were playing a home and home, and then we blew them out like 70 or 65-7 the next year. By having these marquee games, then you are continuing to elevate the stature of the program. And you can only get these games if you have a program of a requisite stature. So if it's, too long didn't read, or, Cam, stop talking. I love the LSU game. I love the fact that we're playing a marquee game like this, and I'm really excited.
So just about 10 days ago, if you go to State of the U, Cam had a back and forth with And the Valley Shook, breaking down the LSU side of things in ramping up for this huge opener against the Tigers. Enjoyable read. What I took away from it, which I basically already knew, but I was able to attach names and personnel to the narrative, is that LSU does not have that one-star running back that they're accustomed to having. They've got less rushing yardage coming back to the roster than they've had forever. So they lose that, and they really don't have a guy, a Fournette or Geis or Jeremy Hill, ready to come back and roll. And so that's not boding well for an inexperienced quarterback. And even if it's that Joe Burrow coming from Ohio State, sure, he's got talent, but inexperience, even though we've got LSU superfan on here, Cam saying it's going to be 40-14 LSU if Burrow signs with LSU. But my goodness, that's a lot to expect of a kid that's never thrown a pass that mattered.
I'm good with that. I love that. Keep that same energy all the way through the summer, all the way to September, whether he signs there or not. I do not begrudge you or myself or anybody for, being braggadocious about their team when you have a foundation and a right to be. I don't necessarily think that LSU is going to hit us with the 40-3 like they did in the Peach Bowl back in 2005. And I don't necessarily think that we're going to hit them with the 66-6 like we did to Syracuse. Or 65-7 like 2001 we did to Washington, and I don't think this Miami Hurricanes team is close to comparing to 2001, so I shouldn't have even said that. But I think it's going to be a more closely contested game than any of the scores that either LSU superfan or myself have recently mentioned.
Cashboy D is saying that Miami is not back. Martin Rosario with the typical LSU has no offense. We know that. They do have skill on the outside. They did lose DJ Chark, who has lit it up at the combine and got selected very highly, even though he had no one to throw him the ball. Although Danny Etling did get drafted, and we'll see how he progresses on the next level. Ronald Fox, big time year for the Canes. LSU will be a test. Greedy Williams, yes, an awesome player. Number 7 draft pick, but we got studs on the perimeter. So yeah, the DBs versus the wide receivers is always something that's enjoyable to watch when you've got just two really athletic teams out there.
Yeah, I mean, that what had been their strength is down a little bit at defensive back. And I think that missing them, well, both teams missed on Patrick Surtain II in this recruiting class. So he would have been a big addition to replace some of the guys that they've lost in the secondary, and would have obviously been a big add for Miami in the secondary. But, without him, you're talking about Greedy Williams, who's 5'9", and going up against Amon Richards, Lawrence Cager, Brian Hightower, any of those guys. I like my chances. And I know that Greedy Williams is a good player. I still like my chances. And I like my guys, on at the wide receiving positions. So I think that's going to be great. Shout out to the State of the U commenters, Martin Rosario and Ronald Fox and all you guys. I know I see your names on the website all the time out there and everything. So appreciate you guys watching and whatnot. But yeah, and there was one guy who said that Miami is not back. Cool. I didn't say that Miami was back. I don't think that any Miami fan would say that Miami is back. So we're all on the same page that Miami is not back. But even with Miami not being back, you have a 10-3 season last year. I think that Miami should have a 10 or 11 win season this year, if not more, depending on, the way that, the ball bounces a little bit and things like that. So, I mean, is Miami 2001 Miami or anything like that? No. And let me say that again. Miami is not back to that. And Mark and I, we've talked about this before, and I've said this on this very channel. Back for Miami means a national championship. So I agree with you. Miami is not back, but Miami can still beat and will beat LSU. So, I mean, thanks for that, I guess. I mean, if that makes you feel good, like whatever, but we're going to win. So,
well, based on what I would consider to be back, you said national championship. To get to that point, I think there's 5 or 6 programs in the country right now that most college football fans, if they were to predict a national champion for this year, would name one of those 5 or 6. Based on what Miami did last year, if they fix the quarterback position and based on what we've seen on the recruiting trail, it lends itself to this happening very soon. The trajectory is where it needs to be, and the 10 wins plus fixing the quarterback plus just recruiting at the level that they have for the last year and a half to 2 years, that seems to add up to get them to Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, etc.
Yeah, I think that all those things that you said matter, and I think that that is fair. There's still work to be done, and yeah, there's just still work to be done. But if we circle back to the previous question, I think that starting the season with an LSU game is a thing that can put Miami on the radar again. You know what I mean? Like that Notre Dame win last year was our major non-conference game. And that dominant victory was a thing where people were talking about Miami. Oh, hey, okay, cool. We're going to bump Miami up higher in the rankings because Notre Dame came in like ranked 8th and then they got destroyed by 6 touchdowns and, things like that. So, but that was in like the end of October, going almost into November. You have this game against LSU. That's week 1 on that Sunday night, like I said, and there's nobody else playing college football but us versus them. So if you go out and you get a win, even if it's tightly contested, then you figured out a way to win a tight game. If you come from behind, same kind of a thing. If you have a lead and they whittle it away, then you still show the mettle of a champion. If you blow them out, then okay, you assert dominance. If you lose a blowout game, then obviously it's bad. But no matter what the narrative is and what you take away from that, as long as you win that game in Miami, then it puts you in a spot where you can say, as long as LSU doesn't have a Florida type season where they go 4-8 or something like that, you can always harken back to that game and say, hey, we beat this really good team with really great athletes across the board. And we beat them. And remember, you saw that on that Sunday night when every eye in America that's watching college football is watching our game. So this kind of a thing, this kind of a game is really big for Miami. And we cannot half step. We cannot start slow. We cannot think, okay, we're going to make it up later. We got to come out. We got to punch them in the mouth. We got to get this win. And hopefully that'll set the tone for the season moving forward, because the schedule sets up very favorably for Miami to be a top contending team. I won't cap what that could be, and I won't argue what that means because everybody can define that differently. But as long as you start with a win against LSU, Miami can be a top contending team, and hopefully that's what happens.
Cam Underwood joining us from State of the U. You got to check out his site there with the rest of the staff covering Miami baseball currently. But of course, there's always football talk with recruiting and getting us set up for August camp. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel where I bring in the likes of Cam and other media contributors who are just outstanding in bringing us the best in college football coverage. All right. 786 Canes has asked this 3 times, so I will honor the persistence.
Let's go. I love it.
Perry, why can't he learn the offense?
I'm not saying, who's to say that he's not learning the offense? Everybody just learns at a different rate, and if he's trying to fit in, he's trying to, obviously Malik Rozier has been here for longer, so he knows the system a little bit better. But I don't think that the hyperbolic extreme of he can't learn the offense is what it is. Maybe there's consistency, and that's a thing that needs to be. Obviously, your playmaking ability, when you stop thinking so much and you know the system and let your and are able to let your athleticism shine. A kid like N'Kosi Perry, you'll see the kind of playmaking ability that we saw in high school. So I don't necessarily think that he can't learn it, but every player is not day one true freshman, All-American, Heisman Trophy guy. Like, people progress at different rates. And I think that N'Kosi obviously did not play last year. He redshirted. So his progression has been a little bit slower than some people, myself included, would have liked to see. But I think that he's working very hard. You talk to people around the program, you read all the reports and things, that he is developing. It does just take time. And every situation is different at every school with every player. So I know that we have this instant gratification society where you want somebody to come in like Amon Richards did as a freshman and set records for the University of Miami and all those kind of things. I know everybody wants that, and nobody more than me, because I can't stand watching Malik Rozier at quarterback. And I've said that, and it's not a surprise to you. But it just takes time, So maybe N'Kosi Perry gets some reps this year. He sets himself up for an interesting quarterback battle going into 2019, because I think that there's going to be a battle next year regardless, as Malik Rozier leaves the roster. But I'm not going to go to the terminal end and say he can't or anything. It's taken time for him to develop, to learn the system, to adapt from high school to college. But if you look around America, that happens for a lot of kids. So I would say just maybe temper your expectations. And maybe I'm guilty of this by, obviously last year comparing N'Kosi Perry to Marcus Mariota. Maybe I fed the beast a little bit and I raised your expectations. And if I did that, and I probably did, then that's on me. But obviously things change. Obviously he's taking a little bit longer to really find his grounding in this program and with this system. So just give him a little bit of time, because the kid's only 19 years old. So I'm not going to write him off now.
If you love college football, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, you got to hear analysis from me from time to time, but also from the best contributors across the nation, like Cam Underwood from State of the U. And if you love the Canes, which I'm sure most of you do, except for the ones that came on to trash talk a little bit, join Cam on State of the U and the rest of the crew there for the best in Miami football coverage. Cam, we could do it on and on endlessly. We got Jordan K, Arizona State, House of Sparky, SB Nation site as well, jumping on here quickly. So appreciate you jumping on board.
Yeah, no problem. Obviously we're over at State of the U. We cover all kinds of Miami stuff. We have a bunch of great content packages coming up through the summer. So, I'm around, and I'm going to get something on this wall behind me eventually, I promise. But, thanks for watching or listening if you're on the podcast. We'll see you guys soon.